It's long been said that flat pedals win medals. Now, that wasn't the case for a while, but in recent years, there's been somewhat of a resurgence with riders like Sam Hill, Alex Rudo, and Morgane Charre, all absolutely pinning it and getting podiums on them. So, what are the pro tips to riding flat pedals? Well, today I'm going to tell you. Pedal choice is crucial then. Now, obviously we see pros, they might have certain sponsorship obligations to what pedals they can use, but that doesn't mean that they don't customize or adapt their pedals to suit and get the best out of them. And there's a number of crucial areas that you can change your pedals, obviously to make them suit you, or obviously you can just choose any pedal that's gonna work for you the best. We obviously use Crank Brothers here at the channel, and I've done a few little bits and bobs to my pedals to make them fit exactly how I want them. Firstly, let's talk platform size. A lot of pedals out there come in a different size platform that your foot's gonna sit on. I would recommend, to me, if you're like a size 9 or 10 UK size that is, or above, you want the larger size platform. If the platform's too small but you've got big shoes, obviously then your shoe doesn't have enough surface area to sit on, and vice versa, obviously. Sometimes I feel like if you've got a really big platform, but a very small shoe, there's actually, you haven't got that room for maneuver too much, if that makes sense. So you kind of want your shoe to almost wrap over the pedal slightly so that you can shift it about. Otherwise, you're going to be almost too gripped to the pedal. Which sounds a bit crazy, but it is a thing. Let's talk pin length. So the pin length is essentially obviously how long the pins are in your pedal. If they're too long, then they will bite up into the bottom of the shoe, but the shoe won't come down enough to sit flat on the cage, essentially, the platform. If they're too short, then they're not going to bite in enough and your foot can move around a bit too easily on top. I've wound these pins out a little bit on mine so they just poke out a little bit more, because that works best with the type of tread pattern on the bottom of my shoes. So if you do get flats, you think, oh man, these things are so spiky and amazing, I'm going to have so much grip. Well, actually, one, you don't want to slip a pedal with them on, but there might not be the maximum amount of grip you can get out of them. So what I would do actually then is look at how deep the tread is on your shoe and then go ever so slightly longer on pin length. That way they bite up into the shoe and into the rubber. They don't just sort of interlock nice like that, but they actually then bite in slightly. But like I said, too long and they'll push the shoe up too high. Okay, lastly, it's pedal material. Pretty much every flat pedal out there that you really gonna want to use in a competitive situation that every pro's gonna use is gonna be metal. Metal pedals, metal pins, but you can get a nylon platform with metal pins in it. Do you know what? They're not bad, they're lighter, but do you know what? From a strength, you'll never really see them use them. I personally probably wouldn't go down that route for riding a lot, especially rocky, gnarly terrain, because they can break quite easily if you do bash them. But they are good, and they're a much more affordable way of getting into maybe the right platform and type of pedal that you want just to start with. Now let's talk shoes. When it comes to shoes, almost every pro out there is going to favour a flat pedal shoe with a really tacky or certainly a very soft rubber compound that makes up the sole, because this is going to allow the pins to really dig on up in there and also allows the shoe to essentially mould around the pedals to a certain degree. They'll also take huge note of the type of tread pattern below. So the tread pattern makes a huge difference because it's essentially how well those pins are going to go into the shoe. If it's too tightly packed together, the pins aren't going to be able to actually bite up into the shoe. They're going to sit up on top, so you'll be more perched. Too far apart, and actually almost when you start getting unweighted, the shoe can float around a little bit. So it's a real compromise that you've got to kind of make in terms of choosing between the two. You can also see here that on these Shimano shoes that we use, it's slightly tighter, but spaced in between sort of pattern. You can actually see in the middle of my shoe there where it's most worn, where the pedal's been biting in. And then obviously, because you've still got to walk around in them, they space it out a little bit more so you've got that grip on your toes and stuff if you need to walk or push around. The materials that those shoes are going to be made of are very hard wearing as well, and also you can see like on these, because your foot isn't maybe done up quite as tight as a clipless type shoe where they've got boas and ratchets and God knows what else, they've almost got slightly reinforced toes. You know, flat pedal aggressive shoes are designed for gnarly riding, so obviously potential to bop your toes on a rock or, you know, stub it is, well, you kind of want to minimize it, should we say. Right, this next one's absolutely crucial. It's basically where your foot sits on the pedal, so your foot placement. It's really important. And when you look at any pro with flat pedals on, you'll see that the pedal is lined up almost perfectly with the middle of the shoe. So they've got an equal distance of toes and heel either side, if that makes sense. It'll give you the best feeling. You know, if you have your, like I said, your toes, obviously, like I said, they have that chance of slipping off, but also there's the most flex there. Look at that. If I have my toes just on the pedal there, you can see the amount of sort of potential flex there is going on. Even worse, I see it back here, and look at that. And it's the same. If I were to shift my foot forwards, I don't really get much feeling through the heel of my shoe. And obviously it can slip off as well. So by having it in the middle, you really get that sort of nice connection with the bike. And also it reduces fatigue as well. By being on the extremes, it really puts a lot of pressure on your muscles, like your calves, your quads, your legs in general, to really hold that position. Whereas this, really sturdy, a lot of the force goes through there and you can really dissipate that and absorb it. Dropping your heels is absolutely crucial when it comes to riding flat pedals. Check out this section here. It's all braking rutted to heck. It's really choppy and horrible, and you wouldn't really think much about it in clips. But on flats, what you want to do is drop your heels. They're going to go to about 90 degrees to your legs, and what that's going to do is shift your weight back, really put force through the pedals and stop them jumping and slipping forwards. Dropping those heels is also going to allow your legs to move in a more efficient way, essentially like big levers, kind of an extension of your suspension, if you like. So obviously, as your forks and your rear shock absorb impacts, dropped heels, your legs are going to pivot and really take in those impacts as well. What this is also going to do in turn is with those heels drops, it's going to allow you to move your body weight around left, right, backwards, forwards when things do get a little bit rowdier. You're also not reliant upon clips to push and pull the bike. You can do it all by feel and by yourself. So when things do get a little bit loose maybe, you can very easily adjust your body position to suit. Here's a pro tip I bet you didn't know. Top riders will actually push and clamp against the cranks to help give them more grip and stability on the bike. Now this is done more when it gets rough, but what they'll do, essentially when your weight's back, they'll end up pushing their heels into the sides, into the cranks themselves. That way they can push and lean against the bike, whoa, without leaning too much against the tree. And it also stops the foot from jumping around as much as well. You may have noticed obviously those wear marks on your cranks, and that is obviously from your heels. Now, obviously some people, their heels just maybe float around, or bigger feet might just naturally rub. But a lot of the time that is actually from trying to sort of push and clamp against those cranks, much like motocross riders do. So when you do a jump, you might squeeze into the bike. So a motocross rider will do something similar. They'll squeeze the saddle. We obviously don't do that part of it, but it stops the bike from falling away and moving from underneath you too much. You'll find yourself doing this naturally. You should never have to actually lift your foot up off the pedal and move your heels in. It should be sort of the general flex and movement in your foot and your shoe, if you like. And that will really sort of just come naturally. The downside is obviously it will speed up some wear and tear, should we say, on the cranks or maybe the swing arm as you just clamp in with your lower legs there. But when it comes to flat pedals, it is an essential skill. Flat pedal pro tips then. Hopefully it helps you with either setup of your shoe or pedal scenario, or actually your riding style altogether. Let me know in the comments down below as always. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget a like and a subscribe. Go a long way to help in the channel. And I'm going to go shred me some flat pedals here in Finale. So see ya.